Hey guys, this is video number 11 for the post-trib pre-wrath rapture position, and I kind of want to go over a little bit of the history. And a lot of people would say, well, Jeremy, how can you be right about this when so much of the majority teaches a pre-tribulational rapture? And they probably are right. The majority of the people do teach a pre-tribulational rapture, both Pentecostal and Baptist alike. But that just wasn't the case more than 200 years ago, because this doctrine only came about in the 1800s. See, if you look at the writings of the early church, and I'll go over it in a second video, or rather the next video, the entire early church believed that the rapture would happen after the tribulation, but before God pours out his wrath. And it wasn't until 1812 when a Jesuit priest, his name was Manuel de la Cunza, and he went under the writing name of Rabbi J.J. Ben Ezra. He wrote a book called The Coming of the Messiah in Glory and Majesty. And in the book, he basically talked about a split rapture, when the Lord would return, rapture his church, and then later would return in the Battle of Armageddon. And in he basically said everybody prior to 1812 was wrong about the post-tribulational rapture, and he says that in this book. And then Edward Irving, he was a Scottish preacher, he comes along in 1827, and he starts preaching this at his church. And it was later that in the 20s or 30s, not really sure, but John Nelson Darby, who's known as the father of modern dispensationalism, he comes on the scene. That's my little guy. He comes on the scene, and he starts teaching that more widespread, that there would be a split rapture. And then I think the icing on the cake would come when a Scottish girl named Margaret MacDonald, she's 15 years old, and she's claimed to have had a vision in which she saw the Lord coming back, taking his saints out of here before the tribulation, and then at the end of the tribulation, or even at the end of 7 years, the Lord's return. And after that vision, that was all the confirmation that Edward Irving needed. He started preaching it widespread, and it got picked up by a guy named C.I. Scofield, who published his reference Bible in 1909. And in this, hang on, buddy, in this Bible, he basically said, in his notes, he corrected the King James Bible, said that the Trinity has no real authority, and he wished he would have put his notes in the Bible by Westcott and Hort, but that he knew that would never appeal to the masses, so he put it in a King James Bible instead. And because of those notes, that Bible became the #1 Bible in all seminaries across the world, and people started teaching this false doctrine of the pre-tribulation rapture. Now, whether it was founded from John Nelson Darby and his dispensationalism, or a 15-year-old Scottish girl with a vision, the point is, history is very clear that the whole early church never taught such thing, and it wasn't until 200 or a little over 200 years ago that we heard anything whatsoever about this doctrine. And because of the work of C.I. Scofield, that teaching is widespread all over the world. In fact, in most Baptist churches, they use Scofield Reference Bible and even tell people what page number they're on so people can follow along in their reference Bible. But guys, that's his notes, and I'm sorry to say, but his notes were wrong, and that's just simply not true. And in the next video, I'll go over how some of the early church fathers wrote of a post-tribulational rapture.